This book, Think and Grow Rich, is the #1 book on wealth and success. So many successful people have attributed their success to this book. It was written by Napoleon Hill, a young reporter, almost a century ago. Yet this book is still transforming lives and making an impact until today. But you know what? For every person who found success through this book, there are countless others who read it and didn't get rich. How do I know? Because I was one of them. I've read this book so many times, just to show you. It's all highlighted. Back when I was in real estate, we even had a mastermind group together where every Sunday we would get together, we had a book club and we would read this book, but nothing changed for me. I didn't get rich from reading the book. And it wasn't until I met my first mentor, Bob Proctor. Bob used to share his story of how he went from being broke in his early 20s, barely scraping by, to then one of the mentors that he had in his life gave him this book and everything changed for him. He went from being $6,000 in debt to making over $1 million within just 1 year. And eventually, he shared his teachings with millions of people around the world. So, what's the missing piece? First of all, I've learned that this book is not just meant to be read, it's meant to be studied and applied. Just like knowing these principles will not change your life. It's like watching tons of YouTube videos on mindset and manifestation. Gaining more knowledge is great, but nothing will change until you actually apply them. It's the applied knowledge that will change your life. You see, when Napoleon Hill referred to the word thinking, think and grow rich, it wasn't just about wishful thinking, like what you hear, what most people say. It would be nice to have a mansion, to have more money, to have a better relationship or more clients. No, it comes down to how you think. And that's exactly what we'll be diving in today. How do you think your way to riches? And for those of people who have not read this book, Think and Grow Rich, here's a quick backstory. Andrew Carnegie, who was one of the wealthiest men in the time, back in the 1920s during the Great Depression, he believed that anyone could achieve greatness with the right mindset. What happened was he commissioned Napoleon Hill, who was a young reporter at the time, to interview the 500 most successful people at the time, including legends I'm sure you heard of, like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Charles Schwab, just to name a few. Napoleon Hill then put them into 13 success principles. Each principle is discussed in one chapter of this book, starting with the first principle, desire. But at the core of all these principles is one essential element. It all comes down to your thinking. So, how do you think in a way that attracts wealth into your life? It's not just about wishful thinking. A lot of people wish to be millionaires, but that's not enough. And I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw. He said that 2% of the people think, 3% of the people think they think, and 95% of the people would rather die than think. Let that sink in a bit. You might be thinking, Amy, I know what it means to think. But just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean you're truly thinking. Dr. Joe Dispenza also pointed that out. He mentioned that on average, we have 60,000 thoughts to 70,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before. And this repetition keeps most people stuck in the past, in the pattern that reinforces the same emotions, the same beliefs, and the same behaviors. And as we know, we often are conditioned to think about the worst case scenarios rather than the best case scenarios. And the people who truly became wealthy, they did so by becoming money consciousness, or I like to call it wealth consciousness. Napoleon Hill even said this in Think and Grow Rich. If you do not see great riches in your imagination, you'll never see them in your bank balance. So everything starts in your imagination. So how do you build wealth consciousness, you ask? Your mind has to become saturated with the desire of wealth, where you already see yourself in possession of the wealth you desire. That's the key. And this is not about hoping. It's about feeling, embodying the wealth consciousness. It's embodying the feeling of success. And this is what Neville Goddard said. He calls it the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you start to assume the wish of you having the money, you will then start to attract them into your life. That's the power of law of assumption. So how do you put this into daily practice? And this is where it gets fun. So it doesn't matter how much you have right now in your bank account. You can go into your imagination and you can picture the bank account, the balance that you want. You can visualize the wealth, the money, the clients, the abundance, the lifestyle that you want. When you truly can see it in your mind and you can feel it, you must manifest in your physical world. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But it's not easy. Why? Because our mind tend to drift, you see. We get influenced by our inner chatter, by our limiting beliefs. How are you gonna do that? How is that gonna happen? And by everything else around us in our physical world. That's why in the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill point out 13 principles of success. But he didn't stop there. He also identified 30 major causes of failure, you see. And that's why if you want to achieve a quantum leap in your life, it's not just about knowing these principles. It's essential to have the 3 key components, which I've covered in my previous video. You can check it out here. So in that video, I also share how I quantum leap in my income. Once I learned how to think the right way and saturate my mind with wealth consciousness, coupled with the 3 key components in my life, that's when my income took a quantum leap. I went from making $100,000 in 1 year in real estate to making $100,000 in 1 month. That's 1,000% increase. You see, developing a wealth consciousness is just the beginning. In the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill shared a secret wealth formula. It's a proven system that has worked for hundreds of successful people. Bob followed it, I followed it, and it works. So if you're serious about building wealth, this is just the beginning. We'll go ahead and dive deeper into Hill's formula in an upcoming video. Until then, remember, it's not just about wishful thinking of becoming rich. It's all about building a wealth consciousness. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more tips on how you can think and grow rich. Thanks for watching. See you next time.